Hi, in this short video we're going to look at using Circle of Influence. It's a tool that you can use for many purposes, both for data gathering and also for prioritization. Let's see how we might use it. So here we are with Circle of Influence, which can be used for prioritizing and scoring things. So for instance, if there's an action that's generated by an exercise, we might get a series of actions and we could plot them onto our Circle of Influence, and we could plot them in accordance to this. Things that we could control or might be easily done would go in the middle of the diagram, and then as things become less controllable, they go further out in the diagram. So it's a nice way to show visually perhaps some prioritization that could be around some actions that we're generating. It can also be used as an exercise in its own right, and this is when I find it possibly most useful of all. For instance, as a team, things that we're good at, what is it that we do that we feel particularly strongly about? That could go in the middle of the circle. Things that we're less confident about go more on the outside. So again, this could form the basis for a learning review or any kind of self-assessment for teamwork or even for individual behaviour or individual skills. And again, with each of these, it's, well, what could we do to pull them closer to the middle? So for instance, if I've assessed myself as being a fantastic communicator, that's great. But if I say that I need work on another area of my skill set, the action might be, what could we do to pull that card closer into the middle of the circle? So here I am in my fishbone diagram. Now, if you've watched the fishbone video, you will have seen this being created. But what I'm interested in doing now is turning the fishbone into something that can help me develop myself. So I'm going to use Circle of Influence as a way to do that, to see how good do I think I am at these various aspects of great facilitation that I've got on this diagram. So I'm going to do that by first of all duplicating this screen, because I want to make sure that I don't lose that one. And so here we are, going to screen number 4. I'm going to rub out the fishbone because the fishbone is no longer relevant for me for the exercise that I'm doing. It was great for doing the exercise in the first place, for getting the data out, but now I'm going to move it forward. And of course, if we were in a room working on a whiteboard or with a wall with post-it notes, then we could just use the post-it notes and move them from one screen to another. But just to demonstrate how it works, I'm going to draw in this space on here. So for instance, what we need then is a circle as a target. Well, of course, you can upload a target as an image. I'm just going to draw on here a circle. That's the inner circle. This is the somewhat outer circle. Now I'm drawing with a mouse tracker pad, so my circles are not going to be fantastic. So having something you can upload is always useful to help you get something that's neater and looks smarter. And then we're going to think to myself, okay, well, these are the things that I'm looking at. These are the attributes that have already been determined of what it is to be a great facilitator. And again, don't forget, I could have gone straight to Circle of Influence from this data set. Once I've created a data set, I can then map it straight onto here. And of course, my question now is not what does a great facilitator actually do, it's how do I rate myself? How do I rate myself in the skills of facilitation? That's just as an example of how the exercise works. So let me see, uses, I can get rid of these ones. I don't need, well, I could keep these, I guess, but I'm going to take them off for the purposes of this. So use WTF. Well, if I was brilliant at it, I'll put it in the middle. I feel okay about using that. I think I can do that. Controlling disruptive behaviour. Really not very good at doing something about that. I'll put that on the outer rim. Use open questions. Again, I think I can develop my skills with that one. Using spectrum. Again, I think there's more I can learn about spectrum. Creating a timeline and a plan. Yep, absolutely. I'm a great planner. Put that in the middle. Use fishbone. Yeah, I've seen fishbone. I love it. Put that in the middle. Giving time to other people. Maybe I could do a bit more of that sometimes. Put that halfway. And preparing materials. Again, I'm really well organised, and I think I'm going to be good at that kind of thing. So here's my self-assessment. And of course, what I can use this tool for now is to say, okay, so if we're prepared to accept that I've already got competency in those areas, then the question would be, how can I look at what's around the edge and what might I then do to improve? So for instance, I want to use Spectrum more. Well, what can I do to involve Spectrum more? I can listen to the podcast, maybe. There you go. That might enable me to move it in a little bit. Then if I want to listen to it a bit more or want to move it in a bit more again, I could actually study it in more depth, for instance, and perhaps go on a behavioural learning course, perhaps behaviour learning, question mark. And now, if I apply those two, then I would then start to be pulling this yellow further and further into the middle, whereas at the moment it's on the outside. Again, controlling disruptive behaviour, I might ask myself what can be done to do more of that, and again in an exercise you can ask other people in groups to work out what they would do to improve this skill set. So controlling disruptive behaviour, and we could say actually what might be needed here is for me to use the spectrum model. Okay, not that all roads lead to spectrum, but it helps in this particular case. So that goes on there as well. So you can see that we can, by mapping things around the outside, we can start to map actions over the top. And that's, so use open questions. We can add again to that one. We say use what, why, although be careful with why, because why can be a question that can make people feel that they have to justify themselves. And even just tell me more. Tell me more about that is a really good way to improve your questioning. Okay, so you can get the idea of how we can use circle of influence to help us also generate actions that we could do. So there you are, that's circle of influence, a tool that you can dovetail in with other tools really effectively.